I think it helps taking a step back a little bit and like the thesis around why we built Rarebet Sports. And that thesis really involved proving that we could build a more efficient sports prediction company on chain than you could anywhere else on the internet. What the blockchain allows us to do, basically enable a lot of features that a lot of sports bettors, a lot of predictors want, which isn't obviously global access, instant withdrawals, deposits, these sorts of things that are enabled by stablecoins, for example. They really give us an edge on who we can go after as users, but also how we can work with other companies, other projects in terms of partnerships and the composability that the blockchain brings. In essence, what it allows us to do is it allows us to provide a better product, and in turn, providing a better product, we can become more efficient as a company.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Zack, for joining me today on DealFlow Founders. It's a pleasure to have you here. And I've spent a lot of time doing some background research into what you guys have been up to over there at Rarebet Sports. And I'm super excited to dive into that, get some updates, learn a little bit more about you. And yeah, let's see where the conversation goes today. How's it sound?
Awesome. Let's do it. Thank you for having me on. Stoked to talk about what we've been working on. Obviously, your guys' support has been huge for us. So yeah, open book today. Let me know.
Oh, that sounds juicy. Well, let's kick things off. CEO of Rarebet Sports. Like, what is Rarebet Sports for anybody that has never heard of it or doesn't even hold crypto? Like, what are you building there?
Yeah, so I think it helps taking a step back a little bit and like the thesis around why we built Rarebet Sports. And that thesis really involved proving that we could build a more efficient sports prediction company on chain than you could anywhere else on the internet. What the blockchain allows us to do, it allows us to basically enable a lot of features that a lot of sports bettors, a lot of predictors want, which isn't obviously global access, instant withdrawals, deposits, these sorts of things that are enabled by stablecoins, for example. They really give us an edge on who we can go after as users, but also how we can work with other companies, other projects in terms of partnerships and the composability that the blockchain brings. So if you're not a if you're not a Web3 user, none of that really makes a lot of sense. But in essence, what it allows us to do is it allows us to provide a better product. And in turn, providing a better product, we can become more efficient as a company. So that was really the thesis there. And it's since grown into like this massive global community of sports bettors utilizing our infrastructure, utilizing our front-end applications. So one way I really like to describe it as is it's an alternative tech stack to your traditional sports betting ecosystem. And of course, being built on Monad, which again isn't really relevant to a Web2 user, enables all these things for us. And it allows us to compete in ways that other people can't.
So to anybody that is currently into speculative entertainment, I think is the words that we like to use, that you're just building a better platform, a better experience for people to come in and enjoy themselves there, right? So what is the problem at the moment? Like, I'm not a person that actually plays online or knows very much about sports, to be quite honest. But for any sports fanatics person here that might be into like taking, gambles or risks or just having a look at like putting some money down or thinking who's going to win, like what does that current experience look like for them right now, and like what are you doing to make that better? Like why should they come across?
Yeah, well, I think we've innovated in a few ways. One of which is we've brought daily fantasy sports on chain. And daily fantasy sports is like the fastest growing vertical here in North America. So if you're an avid sports user, or sports bettor, you definitely heard of daily fantasy sports. But we being on chain, we are able to bring features such as earning yield on deposits, winning incentives that are sort of what we feel are the most exciting asset class available, which is of course crypto. So we can incentivize gameplay. We can incentivize all these things that normal sports bettors are used to doing, but in a much more exciting environment. I think that's what's really important to users. So our first application, Rarelink, you select 2 to 7 players. It's over under. So we're abstracting away from like a traditional sports book. Daily fantasy sports is kind of meant for that. We don't even have odds on the site. We have lines. So it's something that I think my grandmother can do. And it's something that she actually uses sometimes to bet on LeBron James. She's a huge LeBron James fan. So in terms of like how it, again, benefits a traditional sports bettor, it again provides better incentives. And also one thing that we really like to talk about is the fact that we have this global accessibility. PrizePicks, for example, is probably the biggest North American DFS operator. And they have 0 customers outside of North America. You know, we have tens of thousands of customers outside of North America because PrizePicks doesn't operate outside of North America. And so we're able to serve this sort of growing demographic of sports bettors, of speculative entertainment in regions that they can't compete in. And so that for us is, I think, really, really cool aspect of it.
That's insane. I didn't know that. So at the moment, is there no global sports betting platform out there that does every sport?
They operate, well, so they operate in just various segmented, I'd say, operations or companies. You have obviously big investors that are kind of behind a lot of them, but there's no one global brand that people can look to. DraftKings is another huge brand, but again, they're only available in North America. Same thing with PrizePicks, right? So for us, we have this opportunity to, one, build a global sports betting ecosystem, but with that comes a global sports betting audience. So there's a much larger, I think, opportunity there. And again, that's all, of course, enabled by the fact that we do have stablecoin support. So if you're in Nigeria and you don't have the ability to convert your USD because you don't have USD into something that's playable on PrizePicks, it's like PrizePicks one is never going to offer support for that type of currency. But because they can, get their hands on stable coins, they can use their platform to swap into it. They're now able to play in a way that they've never been able to play before.
That's so exciting, and that's why building a speculative sports platform on chain makes sense, because it's enabling currency to be abstracted away. You can have dollars or pounds or pesos, and you can have stable coins. So that's what you're saying, is that by building this sports betting platform on chain, it's kind of just a better experience for people all around the world and opening up a larger market for everybody to have an equal opportunity to, right?
100%. And on top of that, the way that we actually acquire customers at a cheaper cost, which, as everybody knows in gaming is extremely expensive, is that we can tap into these already established blockchain communities. So if you hold a certain NFT that we're partnering with, we can now give those NFTs utility on the platform, on Rarelink, for example, where maybe you're getting extra payout because you just hold something within the eco. So the composability aspect of it allows us to grow really, really fast, but also get these users in a way that, again, that nobody else can really compete with because they're not building on the blockchain like we are.
How big is the current market size for prediction markets within sports at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, people are saying that prediction markets are predicted to, overtake just about everything from stock markets to how your favorite record labels are signing artists, to how your favorite sports teams are signing new players. So the actual, I think, prediction TAM is in the trillions. Like, this speculative entertainment is huge. Sports betting in itself is obviously a bit smaller, but it's growing so quickly with this introduction of prediction markets, which are now available in most states, which is a whole nother discussion to get into as to whether those still should be considered sports betting, or if because they're event contracts, it's not. But yeah, it's massive. And I think you see these companies now. I believe Polymarket's partnered with these massive sports companies, UFC. So it's only getting better and bigger. And for us, on one side of things, right? And so for us, we know this audience growing, but we're also building infrastructure on the back end that we can support new projects. We can also support new ideas that are on the blockchain. So with that, we're able to.
What would you want to bring onto your own platform? Sorry, what would you want to bring onto your platform?
So in terms of RBS Oracle, we're aggregating off-chain and on-chain data, sports data, whether that be lineups, that be odds, and we're working with a few different prediction markets in the eco to allow them to use our Oracle to power their pregame odds, their lineups, etc. So one, we get to use it ourselves. It's what powers Rarelink. It's what's powering our future prediction market. It's what's powering all the on-chain aspects that give it the transparency that everybody loves. But we're also going to be opening that up to other projects to use. One thing that we found when we were first starting to build this was that all these data providers each have their own format of sharing data. So essentially, you're working with 5 different sort of languages, trying to aggregate them all into one different API that you can then use, right? So the beauty of the RBS Oracle is that we can bring in all this data. You only need one API, and we do all the hard work and configuration on the back end.
That's amazing. I didn't realize that. I hadn't really even considered it because it's not really in my realm. But if you think about all of the different betting platforms, they're obviously getting their price feeds from somewhere, and those price feeds are usually localized or within their own country or language. So what you're saying there is you've built infrastructure that will actually be able to aggregate, decode, and streamline a new channel of these price feeds, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it's something that we've had trouble building ourselves. Like, you talk to all the biggest data providers in this space, and each one of them is going to send you Shohei Ohtani hitters in 4 different formats. And so for us on the back end, we have to configure all those different formats. If you want to add a new data provider, that of course is going to have a different format. So these are all things that we've had issues with ourselves. And being able to aggregate that and solve that for builders, I think, is a huge value add to the infrastructure we've built, and a huge value add to RBS as a whole, really.
So take me back to the earlier stages. Like you just mentioned, the reason that you're now building a price feed oracle is because you came across the problem that there was no universal available good enough oracle for this price feed data. So I want to know, why did you build Rarebet Sports? That name always is a bit of a tongue twister as well, by the way.
Right. Well, it actually originally started when my co-founder and I, Brian, were working in the launchpad space. We had worked with so many awesome projects and that has built so many great communities, but the only real thing to do with their token was either governance or staking of some sort. And for us, and basically everybody involved, that's just so not fun or interesting to anybody. So this originally spurred as how can we bring utility in a fun and engaging way, one for fans now, but really it was meant for early token communities and meme coins. Let's give people the ability to use their meme coins to, instead of just buy and sell, we can actually create a token sync for these projects where they create revenue with their token. They can do they could burn the token if they wanted. They could redistribute it back to holders. But that was the initial idea. And then from there, we wanted to figure out how we could do that. How can we, one, make something more operationally efficient, but also bring utility to all these communities across crypto. So I think that was the first sort of light bulb moment for us, was working in the space, seeing a lack of utility, seeing a lack of fun and engaging things to do, and just building based off of our passion, really, too. We're all huge sports fans, avid sports bettors, are on prediction markets all day. So it really just went hand in hand with what we had experienced and also what we were interested in.
And you guys met in Silicon Valley, right? Or in San Fran?
Yeah, I went to school in San Francisco. That's also where I met Brian. That's where I met Jorge. We had all been working, again, in the Launchpad space. So we've all been, working together for quite a while now, and that all formed up in San Francisco. Yeah.
How important do you think putting yourself into the right environment is for nurturing ideas for anybody else who's a founder out there thinking of perhaps trying to change up their environment to excel themselves? Like what importance do you put on that?
I think it's pretty important. I think especially when you're looking for either a sounding board or feedback on ideas. One thing that I love about Monad is that they are super supportive to all their projects, and they host these events that people fly in from all over the world to attend, and they're like, 2-week boot camps. And they're known to be super harsh, and you're known to be very like cutthroat when it comes to feedback. And it's something that I think every founder and entrepreneur needs to experience, is like real honest feedback. There's so many yes men, and especially in crypto, I feel like that being told like this isn't going to work, you need to focus on something else. What's this? Are you planning for X, Y, and Z? All these things that might not necessarily be super apparent, especially when you're building heads down. Monad's been extremely resourceful in helping us get to where we need to be.
I want to know, why did you choose Monad as your L1? There's so many L2s out there. Everyone's chasing to be faster and better than the previous one. So what was it about Monad that got you guys to actually want to partner with them and be so, working closely with them?
Well, I think there's a few reasons. One is what they built technically. Technically, what they've built is far superior to, I think, anything that's really out there. You have the compatibility with the EVM, which has the most amount of TVL of any ecosystem. So there's a ton of liquidity there for projects to tap into. Also a ton of building blocks because it is EVM compatible. There's a lot of day one infrastructure available. And then on top of that, they just have a super solid team. I mean, Keone, James, everybody, Kevin, their whole team is just like stacked with absolute killers. And if you've been in the space for a while, you know who they are. You've seen the work they've done, and you see the work on the timeline too. Like Monad takes over the timeline anytime they do something. So I think for us, it was seeing that technical feasibility, and then also the fact that they can cultivate a long-term idea with the community that's been there for I think the idea of Monad has been going on for 2.5 years now. So people have been sticking around, and I don't think you have that opportunity to launch with a super serious L1 at really any point. Obviously, it would have been cool.
I was going to say, have they just launched Monad, their mainnet, right?
Yeah. So along with our mainnet, right? So we're day one mainnet project. And that's what everybody's been counting down for the past 6 months on, what everybody's been building on the testnet. So mainnet's coming up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because last time I spoke about 6 months ago in July, it was, just looking forward to this mainnet launch for you guys to coincide with that. And you told me that you had chosen the Monad ecosystem to partner with for, the reasons that you've just highlighted there before. And I want you to go a little bit deeper into the Monad experience that you have received there at Rarebet Sports. So in April of this year, 2025, you flew to Bangkok and walked away with the winning prize of $200,000 from Monad. So take me through that experience.
I mean, it still feels surreal, and I think it was almost like a year ago at this point. But yeah, I mean, it was like what's funny is they had done one in New York. So my co-founder and I flew out to the first one in New York, and we scouted the whole event, like the format. We looked at what the judges were actually asking these teams so that we could be prepared for day two. All these insights that we got while just attending. So we were stoked to figure out that the next one was in Bangkok, which for us, we had never been to Bangkok, so that in itself was a pretty wild experience itself. If you've never been to Bangkok, it's like, holy crap. And it was just like a week of just pitching, talking to people, talking to projects, talking to obviously the Monad team. And it culminated in like a final 2-day essentially pitch in a massive auditorium, which is funny because we went there thinking it would be like New York, and New York was in like an office space essentially. And we walked into Bangkok and it was in this massive auditorium with like the biggest screen you had ever seen. And so we were just like, wow, this is like way, way more intense than we had initially thought. And but just fueled us, and we walked away. Well, we went in it super confident, and obviously we walked away winning. So I think it couldn't have gone better, to be honest. It was an awesome learning experience on top of the obvious prize pool and everything. And it also set us up to really, I think, take over mindshare when it came to like launching on Monad. We had the community behind us. We obviously had all the judges behind us. And so I think that was like a really, it was a pinnacle for us getting like the community now is on our side.
For sure. So how big is your community at the moment?
Well, we have over 300,000 registered users for our upcoming mainnet. I think on X, we have a little over 30K followers, which I don't know if you want to count them all as community members, but we're probably the most active, I'd say, DFS, even gambling community on CT right now.
Because you guys have just had your testnet, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we've been iterating on products, been building the community, which has been super fun too. Like we have streams all week talking about it. We get a lot of feedback directly from the community on our weekly calls and everything. So yeah, it's been amazing on Testnet.
What are people building on Testnet? So you've just had Testnet live for last, I don't know how long it's been live for, but what were people coming in and using your infrastructure for? What markets were they betting on or predicting on? And actually also, do you want to take it a step further back? Because I didn't actually know this when I first discovered Rarebet Sports. I didn't know what fantasy sports was. And so just for anybody out there that actually doesn't know what fantasy sports is, do you just want to really high level explain exactly what that dynamics is and what like the parlay version of the platform that you're building is, just so you can understand that a bit better, and then like go into telling me around like what people were using it on Testnet and what do you hope to see on mainnet?
Absolutely. So fantasy sports is like in itself a category one of like betting, but it's also more broadly known like in fantasy football, right? So your friends get together at the beginning of the year, you all do a draft, you have those players throughout the entire course of the year, and you're all competing really for one prize at the completion of the season, right? Whoever has the most points. So daily fantasy sports takes that entire sort of competition, but it condenses it down into a single day. So every day you're basically creating lineups of players that are playing that day. And that can be from across all different sports. So you don't have to just be betting on football or just baseball. You can also include a football and a baseball player in that bet.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so we turned on the degeneracy, and we're hyper focused on making it also as consumer friendly. So it's really fun to play too. And that of course comes with like a global leaderboard, all that good stuff. And then I think what we've had on Testnet has been a great preview of RareLink, our DFS product. And again, to also continue on that, we've also have a pick'em style DFS. So you're essentially picking over-unders on your favorite players' statistics. The more players in your bet slip, the more your potential payout. And so we've seen players on Testnet hitting 100Xs. And we always like to say that it's actually, you're more likely to hit 100X on Rarebet Sports or RareLink than you would be in the pump fund trenches. And that's just actually statistically true. We've had a lot of people hit 100X on the platform in the past 6 months. And that was just with our first, I think, 3-4 sports that we offered. Obviously, sports are seasonal, but we'll be going to market in mainnet with 4 different soccer leagues, MMA, so you'll be able to like bet on your favorite UFC fighters. And then we have some really, really cool projects and partnerships in the works. But I don't want to spoil those yet. So I'll share those after the call, but they're really cool, I think, for any sort of sports fan or speculative entertainment enthusiast, as we like to say.
That's very exciting. So what is one sport that you personally would like to see on your platform? Because you said that you're a sports fan yourself, you're tapped into it day in, day out. So what are you hoping to see?
I mean, I would love to see professional lacrosse on the site. I actually played lacrosse in high school, played in college as well. And you actually see some of that in terms of DFS around some of the operators. But I think for having us bringing that to the site would be really cool personally. I know there's also on the Monad team a couple ex-lacrosse players that played in college, so they've been asking for it as well. But yeah, I think that one would be really cool.
That's fine. I don't actually even know how to play lacrosse, but I've seen it on TV and it looks very intense.
Lacrosse is crazy. That's a crazy sport. Like, you definitely walk away with bruises. And I actually tricked my mom into letting me play because she wouldn't let me play tackle football. And so I'm like, let me go play lacrosse. And she like had no idea. We live in California. And she comes to like our first game or practice, and we're just whacking each other with these sticks and hitting each other. And she was horrified. And she was really mad that she'd gotten tricked into letting me play.
Yeah, it sounds very vicious, hurtling a ball on like a end of a stick around a indoors field at high speed. Like, not for me, thanks.
Yeah, it's like soccer combined with football and hockey. So you kind of combined it all to create this one crazy sport.
That sounds very intense, and maybe there's a reason why it's not very popular in New Zealand, where I'm from. It's only in America. But I guess that's another nice little segue. So, I mean, tell me a little bit more around like your history, your background. Like, how did you go from, I guess, playing lacrosse into now being founder of a massive online sports predictive market platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. I think my like entrepreneurial journey started like in elementary school. I was selling paper airplanes to kids. I would take printer paper and like steal it from my teacher's printer and fold it up and sell it for like 25 cents, 50 cents. And I had like I had a whole book of ones you could pick. So I think it started really early on. Entrepreneurial endeavors have always been like super something that interested me. My parents both found their companies. I went to school actually for entrepreneurship and innovation at University of San Francisco. So I started really, really early on in my professional career working in startups. And I think they're the most exciting part of businesses. There's so many cool, radical ideas being thrown around. And I think being able to work on the cutting edge of sports betting, but also bringing that to like the cutting edge of finance and crypto, like kind of just fueled my fire to like want to continue building what we're building really. Yeah, it started early on, very early in kindergarten, I'd say, selling paper airplanes.
A paper plane book, that sounds interesting. Do you still have that? Your book of paper planes?
No,
you could do that into
I think
NFTs,
I got in trouble. I know, I got in trouble for it. I was like taking paper and then yeah, I was walking around with a bunch of quarters everywhere, and kids were fighting over throwing them in classrooms. So it was a disaster kind of from the beginning.
So maybe that was your first touch with entrepreneurship, but what about your first touch with crypto? I always find it interesting to know how you first discovered crypto and fell down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, let me think. I think my first sort of like light bulb moment when I was like, I want to work in this industry was watching, I forget which one it was, but it was Beeple's, like one of Beeple's first NFT jobs. And it was the one with the American bull and like the American flag. And I think he had sold them for $1 on Nifty Gateway. And one, that blew my mind because I'm like, people are actually just buying this JPEG online. Like, this is crazy. He sold a bunch of them off the bat. Can't do anything. I didn't know anything about NFTs at the time. And I had done like, obviously participated in some early ICOs, some like DeFi crypto stuff. But the fact that we're like actually taking this and using it to like in my mind sell JPEGs now was pretty crazy. So I just started digging in more, and like we started seeing all these really cool, interesting ideas come about in NFTs. I had a bunch of professional either music or photography friends at the time. And I was like, let's tokenize your artwork and see if we can sell any of it. And we tokenized a bunch of artwork, and we sold a lot of it very early on OpenSea. I remember us sending messages to collectors via like transactions on Ethereum, because it was the only way we could figure out who these whales were that were buying massive like JPEG, the amount of JPEGs on OpenSea. So we would send like these messages and try and get a hold of them and be like, we're doing this cool project. Would you like to buy one of our artists' NFTs? And so it went really well, and we sold a bunch of NFTs for some really cool artists. And that sort of evolved into us being approached to be on the founding team of a launchpad. It wasn't like the launchpad you see now where it's very permissionless, like Pump Fund, but it was very curated launchpad focused on metaverse stuff. So that was like the real, I think, beyond just tokenizing artwork and helping our artist friends make money and working in this sort of agency fashion. That was like sort of our first real, I think, endeavor into launching tokens, how to go to market better, using our marketing expertise to make these projects grow their communities easier and faster. So yeah, it all started with NFTs really, and then the launchpad.
Interestingly, yeah, I just want to take it back into that. So this is not like your first time being a founder. You've been an entrepreneur ever since, like you said, maybe even primary school, we call it.
I wouldn't
like
count
very,
that, but
very
yeah, we'll
young,
count
right?
it. We'll count it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, and then you've like gone into the entrepreneurship through like the Web3 area and explored that sort of that crypto journey. And you work with the Launchpad as well. So I want to know from your point of view, working with these Launchpads, what knowledge and tips or tricks have you picked up that you're going to take forward with if you guys ever launch a token? Or I don't know if that's a thing in your pipeline or not. But right. For like what
I think
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one thing that we learned that's super, super important, and this was kind of the thing at the time, but people were launching tokens before their actual products were ready. It was much more speculative. It was much more based off of future promise of something coming. And I think now you see, especially with what they're calling the revenue meta, like, oh, were we supposed to make money doing this now? Like, who would have thought? You see like a much more thought out products, and like products that people actually want to use, and products that are actually solving problems. And I think we didn't necessarily have that before. And for us, it meant making sure that the product itself, the Oracle, RareLink, all those things are ready. Those things can generate revenue, so that if we ever do launch a token, you're not buying based off of speculative revenue. We actually have things that can generate and return real value. So I think I'd say that's probably the biggest lesson taken away from that.
Definitely, creating true utility is something that so many projects forget about. And I think, like you mentioned earlier on, maybe back in the day, utility was always promised to come later, and whether it did or not, or whether it was genuine utility was another debate as well. But talking about true utility and bringing back up NFTs, so coming up on the 24th of November, you guys are launching your mainnet alongside Monad's mainnet. I want to know, there's an NFT that you guys are releasing, season 1, there's 999 of them. What true utility have you guys built into these NFTs? How does anybody get one? Like, is it worth it? Let me know.
Yeah, so one thing that the NFTs are representing for at least this first season has been our users' commitment over the course of Testnet. So anybody that's been involved with helping us build RBS, whether that's through partnerships, whether that's through direct community involvement, those are the holders that we want to go after. People that have used the product, people that have contributed. One, because it's our first sort of season player pass, so it's also kind of commemorative. but also because at this launch, we have an opportunity to, I think, provide, again, a lot of value to these holders. And that's through one, the partners we work with. We're working with a ton of new projects that want distribution for their token. So I don't want to say too many promises or anything like that, but they are looking to our community, which we've built as a great user base for their own token, for their own distribution, etc. And we help identify those users with the player pass. So this season is really about showing who's been involved with us for the start. That's why it's a free mint. So we have, I think, again, 999 of them are available. Our community is pretty big, so those are the top, I'd say 1% community members from who we've been working with. And a lot of that utility and value is going to come from our external partnerships, which is, I think, really cool. We've shown it over Testnet to how many of these people we can get involved with what we're building. And seems to be the right path too. We're not so big on the PFP stuff right now, but again, real utility.
Yeah, I like that. So are you able to share with us who have you got partnerships with at the moment?
Not yet, because they haven't announced either. But you'll see some of them, I think, within the first week. Yeah, within the first week of Monad. And of course, we have a season-long campaign with a few cool projects as well. So again, DFS, we're breaking it into seasons. That's what the player pass is. The first one's for season 1. Come season 2, season 1 player passes will be able to be redeemed or burned, discounted, etc. But those ones will actually be for sale, and we can reward our current users with them then too.
Cool. Sounds exciting. So what is one metric that you are going to be keeping your eyes on from mainnet launch? So that you're going to be using as an indicator to know whether it's a success or not as good as you're hoping, or what value you're going to be looking at?
Yeah, there's a couple things we're looking at. We obviously are looking at betting volume. So how much are we actually processing? But another thing throughout the first few weeks is retention, of course. Yeah, so we'll be introducing a lot of these retention mechanics, referral programs for the first time on mainnet. And I think keeping an eye on those is super important, obviously, but also because we have been accepted into Monad Momentum. So Monad Momentum is an incentive program that's powered essentially by Monad. And we've been accepted into that. So day one, there'll be some really cool mechanics that are going to help with retention and all the things that we're keeping an eye on.
Exciting. So if somebody was to get amongst or join, how do they go about that? Is it as easy as going to the App Store? Do they go to your website? How do they start using your platform?
Yeah, so rarelink.io. You'll be able to hop in there. We've also partnered with fund.xyz, which is an amazing aggregator and on-ramp partner for essentially any ecosystem or chain to basically bridge into the RBS eco. So yeah, rarelink.io. I would also hop into the Discord. That's where the real community goes down, all the memes, all the shit talking. And we have some really fun streams too, that everybody likes to watch and participate in. So yeah, just hop on the app, rarelink.io, and jump in the Discord.
Cool. And I want to know a little bit more around your audience, because I noticed that you're targeting appears to be more of a degenerate audience online and going down some more alternative marketing routes. Well, not alternative, but you're not focusing just on crypto Twitter, right? You're trying different areas to capture your audience. So is your audience DGENs, or are you expanding? How are you expanding further, and how are you doing that?
Yeah, I think the current initial audience is DGENs, right? Like the CT audience that's very familiar with the trenches, with meme coins, with high risk appetites. But that's going to be, I think, just our first sort of demographic we go after. I think after that, we have obviously the much broader sports betting market to attack. And we're going to do that through, I think, some really cool products that we're going to be rolling out on top of RareLink. So obviously I mentioned we have the DFS app, super consumer friendly, but I think there's also room for a much more professional trading of prediction markets that we can offer for the less, I'd say, consumer focused and more trader focused rather. So I think by innovating on the product and just like continuing to ship nonstop as to like what people want and ask for is really how we're gonna be able to do it.
Talking of shipping nonstop, are you guys integrating AI into Rarebet Sports, and if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to use AI. One with prediction markets, of course, and using agents to interact with them. I think that's going to be a huge factor when it comes to growth in the consumer segment of it. I feel like the ultimate consumer experience is like just telling an agent what you want to bet on, having it find the best odds, placing it the bet for you, doing this all in the background, and you really have just can watch the game and utilize that speculative entertainment in the way that it's meant to be. But yeah, I think AI also provides like a really great use case when it comes to information aggregation and how to make decisions. So by providing like better statistics based on players and also like making those players, I think, more relevant in the user experience, like using AI to essentially provide more bespoke experiences, whether that's like curation through the millions of prediction markets that are going to eventually pop up, or providing you with information on how to bet on those prediction markets.
Yeah, because you guys are going to have so much data from all of the like global data from all these different sports that you guys can feed into your own AI, which can make a super powered, niche specific sports tailored model. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. I mean, that's something that's actually been really valuable to a lot of the professional teams we've talked to. Those teams want data on their fans. They want insights on how their like ticket holders, their user base is actually betting. And with blockchain, we can actually like provide a lot of transparency into that and give them sort of like, again, composability to use that data in any other application they want to build.
Do you think they're going to get to the stage of putting chips on balls and chips on players to be analyzing all these data points within the player's field? And how does the future of sport look like with AI?
I mean, they already do. I think every football player right now has a chip in their helmet that's detecting like a lot of different random variables. I think the future of sports with AI is going to drastically change how we consume sports and speculative entertainment. Again, I think it's going to like provide more bespoke experiences for how you want to watch them, how you want to bet, how you want to interact with these teams. And I think we're going to see a lot of innovation when it comes to how teams utilize prediction markets to, again, get data from their own fans. So in my mind, like we have currently these generalist prediction markets, whether that's Kalshi or Polymarket. But in the future, I think every team's going to have their own Polymarket or have their own prediction market. I think every league's going to have their own prediction market because they're going to really care about what matters to their fans. And there's a lot of great insight you can get by utilizing prediction markets. You know, Google uses them as forecasting methods internally for their staff to better forecast if they're going to meet deadlines. So I think there's a lot that you can do to gamify that aspect with fans when it comes to how they interact with teams. Again, that's not so much on the AI side, but I think you'll see a lot more of the prediction market aspect of things being niched down.
It's creating a whole new level of business at the club level of sports because it's usually been by associations or bigger entities, but allowing these prediction markets to come into even, you know, your local rugby club, which has all of these other little little rookies playing and all sorts. It's going to create a whole industry in the middle level of sports. It's not just the top tier sports that you can now start to, I guess, speculatively on, but I mean, like, you can imagine dads going to, you know, the little leagues and placing
yeah.
Like, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Definitely, and I think we're going to just see more of that sort of behavior take place with these prediction markets. I mean, they've already obviously taken over a lot of the mind share when it comes to political surveys or speculation, which they've done for a while. But again, I think you're going to see just the accessibility of them grow. And when it comes to being the most accessible, I think there's no better place to do that than on the blockchain.
I think so too. It makes sense in my eyes, and I hope that everybody who has listened to today's conversation can actually understand that by using a platform of Rarebet Sports, the tongue twister still gets me every time. Wait, before we wrap this up, why have you
just say RBS? RBS.
RBS. Yeah, it's always getting me. But where'd the name come from?
Yeah. We actually went through a few different names. One of which, Rarebet Sports. Rare was supposed to obviously have some sort of tie-in to the vernacular of crypto, like looks rare, super rare. It has this sort of like, especially during the NFT craze. And then when it comes to like the kind of goal of building out these niche prediction markets, finding bets that aren't going to be found everywhere, was also the other idea is we can, because we have this flexibility of the blockchain, we can utilize it to work with really cool projects and sports that we really don't find anywhere else.
Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure to get through about half of the questions that I wanted to ask. So we'll have to get you back on with your co-founders. We didn't even get to a lot of the stories behind the scenes of all of that. So we'll have to get the whole team on here next time. And maybe we can have like a recap of how mainnet's going and tell everybody how they can get amongst, follow along, and join the journey.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. It's been awesome. Always appreciate talking to you guys. But for anybody that wants to get involved on mainnet, keep an eye on our Twitter, join the Discord, and just go to rarebetsports.io or rarelink.io for the DFS application. But thank you again for having me. It's been awesome.
No worries. Wait, before you go, I want to ask one question, which I've asked all my guests before, and I haven't got around to asking you now. I just remembered. So before you go, what is a message that you would give to your 17-year-old younger self?
Oh, that's a great one. I would say a message I'd give to my 17-year-old self is to not stress out so much. Everything's going to work out. If you keep building, if you keep going, there's light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
There we go. Easy peasy. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll see you again next time.